If they continue promoting business in countries like Nepal, the revenue will go significantly up in the in future years. We are proud to say that we are actually producing graduates fit for the Nepali market as well as fit for the global market. And you must have heard stories about how you can buy all those theses and everything on the shops and all that. It is down to the lecturer to determine whether a particular student has cheated or not. Institutions like us, they organize knowledge. We don't produce knowledge. When I came back to Nepal, I thought that I was very smart. Getting PR might be the means to an end. People will treat you as an outsider, right? No matter how many years that you stay in that particular country. Imagine that you are 21 years old, right? So and you are making 50,000 rupees a month. And last time we had this Japanese company coming into our college, and they want 100 of our graduates.
Hey guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Doers. I'm really excited as a case-ma kinabhane we have someone really experienced, really senior, not in terms of age, but in terms of experience. So let me introduce Pramod sir, director of Softwarica and Sunway College. अनि Pramod sir सँग चाहिँ दुई तीनवटा प्रोजेक्टमा क्लोजली काम गर्न पनि पाइएको छ. So I know his energy and he is a perfect example of a doer. So Pramod sir, स्वागत छ तपाईलाई.
Thank you so much, Anup. Glad to be here.
Okay. So directly into the topic हैन मलाई हजुरसँग सबभन्दा बिकज हजुरको दुईटा भेन्चर जुन सफ्टवेयरिका र सनवे चाहिँ इट्स कम्प्लिटली इन्टु एजुकेसन इन्डस्ट्री हैन. सो यसको बारेमा नेपालमा प्राइभेट एजुकेसनको इन्डस्ट्री फाइनेन्स वाइज या मतलब इनपुट वाइज हजुरले चाहिँ कसो देख्नुभएको छ हुन्छ नि एउटा रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी पनि अनि प्लस एज अ भायबल बिजनेस पनि के
Nepalma private education, when you look at it, you need to look at the overall education sector of Nepal. So there are altogether 16 degree awarding bodies in Nepal. That includes universities such as Tribhuvan University, Kathmandu University, Far Western, PU, Pokhara. And there are certain other institutions as well. For example, P.P. Koirala Institute of Health Sciences, Patna Academy of Health Sciences, and things like that. So altogether 16 institutions. And affiliated to those 16 degree awarding institutions, we have around 1,407 institutions altogether. Higher education, I mean.
Okay. That is like bachelor level?
Yes, from bachelor's level and above. Okay. And out of which 777 are private institutions. Okay. So mostly it's like more than 50% of the private institutions exist in Nepal, affiliated with these 16 different degree awarding institutions. So when you look at it, obviously the impact of private education is quite a bit because it's more than 50% institutions are there, right? And student enrollment wise, Tribhuvan University alone enrolls around 300,000 students a year.
Do you have a number of how many students get enrolled in any education institute in a year?
Not a particular institution, but then I can tell you the figures of the private institutions, especially the ones affiliated with foreign universities. Okay. So which I think I'll come back to you a little bit later on.
Sure.
So just trying to say the overall education scenario of Nepal. So Tribhuvan University enrolls 300,000 students every year. So if you count the overall number of students, it could reach 1 million.
Okay.
So imagine a university having 1 million students. I'm not sure how many are active students though. So the active students could be only 50% of it. I don't know. But the registered number is close to 1 million. Probably 1 million. I'm not sure the exact figure, but it will be more than 1 million if you think that 300,000 a year enrollment every year. And this is the data published by Ministry of Education back in 2017.
2017.
So it's a 2 years old data, but then there might have been few changes. So that's the scenario. And when I talk about the education institutions which are affiliated with the foreign institutions, for example, Softwarica and Sunway, and there are others as well. There are altogether around 10 institutions who are affiliated with the British education system. I was affiliated with one of the British universities in the UK. And another maybe 15 or 20 affiliated with Malaysian institutions such as Sunway and others. One or two with American ones. And altogether under 10,000 students study in these institutions across Nepal.
And then we have institution affiliated to Indian universities.
There used to be quite a bit of students in Indian universities, but then since we had some distance education problem back in 3-4 years ago, the numbers have drastically reduced. So only I think Indira Gandhi National Open University is only operating now. I'm not aware of other Indian affiliated colleges. There might be some, I'm not sure, but the number has reduced drastically over the past 5 years. So basically, it's now either British or Malaysian and American kind of things. That's on the foreign.
Even if you keep it on a hierarchy wise, I think it's first British education, then Malaysian, and I think then it's American education.
Probably. Well, I don't want to put in any kind of hierarchy because people might not like it. But then that's depending upon the student number. That's the way it is. Yes.
Okay. So मलाई सोध्नमा लागेको question चाहिँ why British education?
Well, British education, किन भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ the UK is one of the country which is readily collaborating with outside world in terms of education. Maybe because of the Brexit, or maybe because the British universities are not getting enough funding from the government.
True.
So they are looking outside to get more funding, and they're looking outside the country like Nepal, where they can at least get something by providing their brand and of course the legacy and the courses and all that.
So if I can ask you a very direct question, how big of a Nepalese market is financially for British universities?
Well, it's not much. If you compare, the universities are very, very massive, and they have millions and millions, tens of millions of pounds of revenue in the UK. Compared that to Nepal, we aren't much. But then, as the business grows, for example, Softwarica College, let's say if you have 1,000 students and if you pay 1,000 pounds per year per student, that becomes 1 million pounds a year.
That's big.
Yes, that's big. But for university, it's not so big. I mean, because the university has 30,000-40,000 students, and they have this budget of 100 million pounds a year, something like that, right? So they have buildings and equipments worth 300-400 million pounds. So compared to that, it's not much. However, if they continue doing this, if they continue promoting business in countries like Nepal, the revenue will go significantly up in the in future years. So which could be significant income source for the university.
And this is more or less like a franchise business model, right? Because all they have to do is look after the quality of they have to assure the quality of the education, but then 60, 70, 80% of the work would be done by the college here itself in Nepal.
Yes, in fact,
it's maybe like more it's maybe more or less like एउटा point settle गरिसकेपछि it's like a free money following in every year.
Yeah, of course. We actually do 95% of the work. It's not just 80%, 95% of the work. We deliver lectures, we have our own facilities, we have our own computers and labs and equipments and lecturers and everything else. So what they are doing is they are providing the tested method of education to us, which we are delivering.
Which is more or less like a format.
Yes, it's like a format. Obviously, I mean, the background part, they might have tested in the market, they might have done few research, but then that's a fixed cost, right, for the university.
One time cost.
One time. For university, I said it's a fixed cost. Whether they provide it to us or not, they'll still incur that cost. Right, so in their perspective, the money that they are getting from here is kind of an additional money on whatever their revenue source is. So that's one of the reasons. The next reason is UK is known as one of the pioneer of higher education in the world. Right, it's not the only country which actually delivered higher education in the world, but it's one of the pioneer. And Oxford University, dated back in 1096 AD, which is almost 1,000 years ago, is one of the oldest universities in the world. Although there are few universities that are older than Oxford University as well, somewhere in Morocco and in Italy. But then the modern education is regarded as Oxford University of the UK, and the UK has this legacy, and they have researched so much on education that they have got it right, and their courses are really very focused. So if you are doing marketing, they have only marketing courses.
Very niche.
Yes, they're focused, and you don't really have to study anything else. So once you get the degree from that particular course, the student can directly go to the job market. So that's one of the edge of the UK education, unlike the US or the Canada or even Australia. So Australia is pretty similar to the UK.
So, on a counterpart, my question would be: do you think British education is producing students through Softwarica, let's say Sunway, for a Nepali market? Because
the university that we are working with has given us the flexibility to kind of incorporate the local scenarios, the local case studies, and the local things that's going on in the market, the local demand onto the course. So we can actually modify the course by 20 to 25% depending upon the local scenario. So obviously, if you are doing computing, 80% would be pretty much same all across the world, right? So only about 15 to 20% might be the local scenario, the local perspective that's inside the course. So the university has actually given us the flexibility to do that, and we are proud to say that we are actually producing graduates fit for the Nepali market as well as fit for the global market.
okay, if I can ask a very specific question on, does our graduates are staying in Nepal or they simply flying abroad? Because a lot of people go for British education with a perception key in a long run for them to fly abroad. This is something really valuable, or let's say this would make the whole process of applying abroad much easier.
I think we have to kind of the concept of getting abroad if you do British education or international education in Nepal is not right.
Why do you say so?
Because it's just a degree. It's any other degree. Even if you study Tribhuvan University, Pokhara University, whatever university, is still a degree. It's still recognized, right? So the visa officer decides not on the kind of your background education, but on your finances and various sort of factors whether to provide you visa or not. Of course, your studies also matter, but that's not the only factor they consider, right? So it's not that if you go for British education and then it will be very easier for you to move to the United States or the UK or Australia. That's a wrong concept. The next thing, what's right is that the thing that you get out from the course would be of international flavor. And the kind of assignments and the kind of system that you'll be get involved in will be pretty similar to the ones that are taught in the UK or in the US or Australia. In that perspective, yes, the student will find it very easy if they go abroad.
Once they get in.
Yes, once they get in and once they interact with their friends, and it's very easier to do assignments and research, because our system does not focus too much on research and assignments and plagiarism.
Our system, as in the local system.
Yeah, the local system. So even the top universities in Nepal, they do not focus much on the plagiarism. And it's only a year back, I think they bought plagiarism software. It's just recent. I don't think it has been implemented properly yet. So you are probably aware of the scams that are going on.
Yeah, true.
I don't want to name the university now, but these things are going on, right? So
and these things like the plagiarism thing is pretty big stuff outside, isn't it? Like I mean, like I've read somewhere like a big time professor lost his job from a big university as a dean. I don't know. I don't remember the name of the university outside. Just because after 10 years, somehow they figured out that his thesis was somewhere plagiarized. So this is pretty big stuff, isn't it?
Of course, it is big. It's a crime. So you could actually go to jail for it.
True.
Right? So
not just losing your job.
Yeah, not just losing the job. It's just a small part of it. So I think that guy got lucky. He just lost his job. He could be jailed. So we do not. It's an intellectual property. It's like stealing something out of your pocket.
True.
Right? So if I steal something out of your pocket now, that's stealing, right? So it's exactly that, because somebody else has done the work. Somebody else has put in his or her hard work in producing that content. And then now if you copy it and present it that I've done it, that's a
theft.
That's theft, that's crime. Because as a researcher, I might have spent quite a long time producing that content, and now you're claiming that it's yours. simply by copying and pasting it. So it's a crime. So we do not have that kind of seriousness in Nepal, in Nepali universities. And we all know that, right? Even the top universities, as I just said, just bought the plagiarism software, which has not been implemented so far.
In 2019.
In 2019, right? And you must have heard stories about how you can buy all those theses and everything on the shops and all that.
It's pretty viral on YouTube.
Exactly, right? So, and the reason why, the students pass by, buying the theses and, doing all those stuffs. And once they graduate and come out, no wonder they do not find jobs. Right, and
even if they do, like, no wonder they have not been. I guess they have not been able to make any significant difference to any corporation they go in.
Exactly, and that's why institutions like us would love to work with a local university. It's not that we do not like to work with local university. We love to work with local university, but
and share the resources. Maybe not just resources. Share the expertise that you have gained for so long. So how long are you in the education business?
It's been a decade now.
It's been a decade.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you never tried like collaborating with local universities or like?
We are going to collaborate now. I mean, in the near future now. I've been speaking to few institutions. But then again, the problem remains, how flexible will the university be, right? And also about the plagiarism and about all those different stuffs and of course the course update and all. So as I told you just a while ago, there's a university takes in 300,000 students a year. And the total number is possibly around 1 million altogether. And imagine how that university manages all that with the kind of staffs and the academics that they do, and also lack of technology.
True.
Imagine you have to manage 1 million students with lack of technology.
And
how will you do that?
For me, because even I graduated from a British education, and checking plagiarism is not much of a big technology. And even if these people are lacking on that part, I wonder
Yeah, it's not. I mean, you simply buy a software or
it's an online cloud software.
Yeah, and you simply upload your stuff and it will display your thing there. But then the thing is that
Turnitin.com, right?
Yes, we use Turnitin, but then there are other softwares too. It's not just Turnitin. So the problem is that again, a little bit about plagiarism. When the Turnitin software it just shows similarity index. It does not tell the lecturer or the tutor that the students actually cheated, right? It only tells you the similarity, right? But then even within our fraternity, the UK education providers, and a lot of people think that that's the one that determines plagiarism. It's not.
It's not.
That only gives you the similarity index. It is down to the lecturer to determine whether a particular student has cheated or not. Right? So even the similarity index could be 50% that student might not have cheated. Because
then they don't really accept anything above 20%.
No, that's false actually. Okay. You can actually, as a lecturer, you can defend that.
Okay.
Right? If you really find a particular student that that person has done it by himself or herself, you can actually defend that with the university. And a lot of people don't know that.
And there is a space that university has given.
Of course. And if you can always argue with the university that this is just a similarity index. This is not something that determines that a particular student has actually plagiarized, right?
Plus, I think it's also about where the similarity has been matching to. For example, if it's matching from a Wikipedia or if it's matching from a white paper produced by some professor in US. So I think that's how it makes a difference, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it does. I mean, obviously there will be a referencing part and the bibliography part where whether the students have actually referenced that particular document or not. It makes a little difference there. But then there are a few titles and headings, and there are a few things that that matches no matter what you do, right? So and also if you take in a lot of different resources, or even though you reference it, it will still show it on the index, doesn't it? So that way maybe it could go up to 50%, and it's down to you to determine whether the student has done the hard work or not, whether the student has researched it or not, whether the student simply copied it or actually researched it. So it's down to you. So
and that's something a tutor decide based on his analyzation of students throughout the course.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't it? It's
And
just not a paper. It's just not a
no, and you as a tutor in the British system, as a tutor, you have followed. You are supposedly you should have followed the student from the very beginning until the end of the course,
under the end of the course.
right? And you know the student. You are supposed to know the student very well. So and you can tell exactly whether the students has cheated or not, or plagiarized or not, right? So I don't think you have to depend on the software to tell.
But I think that's a very ideal case, isn't it?
Yeah,
For a tutor to be like understanding each and every individual on a level of their research on the level.
And that's what happens in the UK, in Australia. If you go and study there, they would know you personally. How is that possible? They would actually know you personally.
You graduated from UK, isn't it?
Yes, and they knew me personally, right? And of course, even then there was use of technology, and technology made it all easier to know each student personally, right? And also, you as a student, you make your effort to get yourself known to the particular professor or lecturer, and that believe it or not, that also adds few marks onto your thing
subconsciously.
Yes. Right. So and there are various technologies, and we used to have portals and discussion groups and everything, even online, right? Even back in 2003, 4, 1, right?
So whatever you told me made me question my process, because I'm a teacher myself in the Sunway. So there are like a couple of students which do not really show up. Like I get to see them like once every couple of weeks. So and for them, like for me, now that I feel. Have I really done justice to them? Because I don't seem to know much about them. But then, as you said again, it's also on the students to make an additional effort, go an extra mile to make them known to the tutor, isn't it?
Yeah. What I've done in Softwarica and Sunway both is that trying to do. I want to make the lecturer, the tutor, responsible for students, right? So, for example, if you're teaching 20 odd students in your class on a particular module. So if only 10 turn up and the 10, let's say they're absent, and most of the time they don't turn up. So it's down to you to make sure that those 10 additional students should also turn up, right? It's not, we are doing, administration side does it most of the time. But then,
it's also about the teacher.
Yeah, it's also about the teacher, isn't it? I mean, if you're really interesting, if you're teaching them good stuff, if students are really impressed with you, they will turn up.
They do not want to miss it, isn't it?
They don't, right? True. It's down to the tutor or professor or lecturer, whoever. So that's what we are doing now. We are giving the ultimate responsibility to the particular module leaders, whether the student turns up, whether the student does well or not. Right, so the tutor has to take the responsibility now. So what happens in most of the institutions is that someone from the administration calls the student, "Why didn't you come today?"
Yes.
Right. To the parents, your kid did not turn up today. What happened? And then can you please come to the college? Let's have a discussion.
And there's also a system of 80% of attendance.
Yes. And even with that, I have a different view on it. I had a discussion with somebody, my academic coordinator last time in Softwarica, so 80%. And I said, why 80%? It should be actually 100%. And what he's done was, 80%, you'll be eligible for examinations, all that, if you attend 80%. And the rest of the 20%, maybe, I don't know, you have some emergency at home or some, you can use that 20%. True. But it's not to say that, you only attend 80%. You actually have to attend 100%, and that 20% is just in case, right? If you something comes up at your home, you might get sick. That 20% allowance is for that. It's what he was my coordinator. What he was doing is that even for a student whose level was 80%, he was considering for sickness and illness for 80%.
Okay.
Right. So and I said no. That 20% has to come. The 20% should be there for sickness and illness.
So coming back to my last question, so do you think? So basically my question is, because UK educations are expensive, isn't it, compared to, because you can get IT education in TU, PU and other universities where the costs are considerably very low compared to British education system, isn't it? So my question would be like, whatever you said right now about plagiarism, is these are the things that is making a difference of why it is more expensive. Again, adding on to that, I also feel that right now in this world, IT is very free, very open. You can study a PDF and be an amazing Python programmer.
Yeah.
You can dig into YouTube and be an amazing multimedia expert. Like because I think in internet, it's the IT part that where education is like the knowledge is freely available. So how do you justify that? How do you defend that?
Well, let me answer the first part. The first part you spoke about cost. Cost compared with
Other local
universities, institutions, and other institutions that are affiliated with the UK universities. I don't see the cost as significantly different because if you think about BSc and our course, the cost there's only about 20-25% difference. So let's say they're charging, most of the colleges are charging 8 lakhs plus now, right? And we are charging around 10 lakhs. So it isn't, 20-25, it's not more than that, 20-25%.
But then the same education you will get on OSCL, let's say other public colleges is way less.
Yeah, but then, those are funded by the government or not? You cannot, a private institution cannot compete on cost with the government institution which is funded by the government, right? So OSCL and all those TCs and everything are funded by the government. They are not cheap. They are very expensive, right? But the expense is coming from where?
Government.
The government. The TU, the UGC, I don't know. A lot of, they get funding from a lot of different sources. Otherwise, how can you teach someone by taking 3,000 a month, 2,000 a month? That's not possible. Right? So with the kind of infrastructure that they have and the labs and everything and the kind of mismanagement they have, it must cost per student a huge amount of money.
Mismanagement as in?
I don't know. I mean, they have labs and they have all those different resources. They have property in the central location. It's massive. Just think about the opportunity cost of the property.
True.
If you rent it out, so how much that property will fetch you? Quite a lot of money, right? So that's also a cost.
True, it is.
Right? And the equipments and all those teachers' salary, they're all permanent teachers there. You have to pay the pensions and blah 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 and all that.
Every government facility is proper government.
Yes. So that's that, and it's very expensive if you think about that. Now it's not expensive for students, it's because the government is funding it. So let's not talk about those institutions who are actually funded by the government. Let's talk about those institutions who are still private but run local colleges affiliated programs, right? So if you see, the difference is only about 20-25% now. It used to be quite a lot,
before.
Couple of years back. Right, if you talk about 2013-14, then the difference would have been 50%.
Because 50%. I remember I paid around like 11 lakh maybe, where my friends on local colleges paid around like 4.5 to 5 lakh back in 2012.
Yes, and now the cost of the foreign education system has remained the same. However, the cost of the local institutions have gone up significantly since then.
Why?
I don't know. It's up to them. I don't know, because they were offering BCC at 3.54 lakhs. Now it's around 8 plus.
And does it make sense to increase it by like double it in just a matter of couple of years, like 5 years?
I don't know. I mean, maybe because of the seat limitations. So TU only gives them around 48 seats per year. Most of the institutions, and one thing I don't understand is that if you allow only 48 students to teach at your institution and you only have one program, how is the institution going to sustain itself, right? Unless they charge that kind of money.
Exactly.
I think the reason the fee has gone up is because of that, because you only have 48 seats and you cannot take more, right? And then what kind of infrastructure will you build for 48 students?
True.
So you'll kind of rent a house, maybe a little bit bigger house, right? You cannot afford to go on to big buildings and campuses and the gardens and all the facilities. You can't do that with 48 students.
True.
So and that's one of the reason I think that the fees have gone up significantly with the local institutions, colleges.
Maybe they have been inspired from British education. Okay, I think people are paying like 10 plus lakhs.
That might be the reason as well. That might, you said that you paid around 11,
11 plus.
right? But the fee has not gone up since then. It's actually gone down. So now we are offering around 10.
I think the fees also, because for us, we also pay university fees separately on a pound. So the values keep on changing, it's keep on increasing.
Yeah,
that also makes a difference.
There is a slight fluctuations now. The pound sterling value is around 140, 140 per £1. And that does not make much of a difference. And maybe it's 30,000-40,000 altogether.
Back then, if I remember, it was around like 100, 110.
Yeah. And it was when I was in the UK, I exchanged it for 102 rupees.
Okay. Back in
it was a long time, 2000. Yeah.
Okay. That's almost.
It was around that kind of amount. So yeah. So cost wise, and the next question was what was the next one?
The next question was like, for right now, for if you want to be a good programmer, let's say, even a PDF should do very fine for you. Why do I have to pay like 10 plus lakh just to be an amazing Java programmer?
Now this is a very interesting question, and I have a very interesting answer. So what happens is that nowadays you really don't have to go anywhere to learn anything. It's all on your phone, on your laptop, YouTube, Future Learn, Coursera, EDX. There are a lot of free stuffs available online, right?
And
so why somebody has to come to my institution or any other institution for that matter, get a degree to find a job? That's the question these days. But the thing is that knowledge, institution like us, they organize knowledge. We don't produce knowledge, right? Knowledge is produced by big universities through research. Right, that's how the knowledge is produced, and there's a kind of the huge reservoir of knowledge since the human beginning. It's still hundreds of years, right? And there are still new researches going on every day, even now, right? Which will continue in the future.
True.
So big universities, they produce knowledge through research, and institutions like us, what we do is we organize that and deliver it to the students. And as a student, you may not know how to organize those knowledge, how to organize the knowledge to focus on to a particular discipline, right? So that's what we do. So as an individual, you might not be able to do it. And it's a very difficult thing when you have sea of information, when you have oceans of informations, and you don't know which one is relevant, which one is irrelevant for the marketplace.
Do I really need those disciplines organization if I just want to be a programmer? I just want to be a Python programmer.
Well, you don't. Ideally, you don't. But then is that you don't want to learn anything else apart from being a programmer?
No, if like, of course, I haven't graduated. I know what it counts, how does it make a difference. But then now that's a question.
I mean, being a programmer, is that the only skill you need in a workplace, do you think?
No. There are a lot of other
You
stuff.
need to work in a team.
Teamwork.
Right? You need to have a kind of good
Ethics.
communication skills, ethics, and there are a whole variety of things. So it's easy to say, okay, I would only do this, but that will not be enough because the marketplace is different.
True.
Right? So most of the time, big companies do not even look at your expertise.
True.
They look at your attitude.
True.
Right?
The
How what kind of learning attitude do you have might be the bigger kind of hiring decision than your actual knowledge.
True.
So it's not enough. And of course, let's say later on, if you got bored with Python language, what would you do? Then you might have to go back and again do something else only.
Again.
Right?
True.
So that's the reason. I might be wrong. I don't know.
No. I definitely agree to what you have said because I get asked, because now that I'm running a business, I get to asked by a lot of people that is it really important to join a bachelor degree? And for me, the right answer is definitely not for just education. But then what my college did was they brought people like me together, gave me a space where I can share my mindset.
Yep.
And those are the people right now who are my clients, who are my business partners. And provided that I didn't had gone to a college or a university, I would have missed those.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would have been a loner who would know a language, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But then the communication skills,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like, I have been putting so much importance on communication.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know, like, so on a very practical note, I run a wedding company.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 28 years old right now.
Yeah.
I had an amazing PR back in my college. So I used to shake hands with everyone, spend some good time. So pretty good relationship with almost every people.
Mm-hmm.
All of them are getting married.
Yeah. Very good for you. Good business. Yeah.
Yes. And now it's getting back. It's paying me back.
Yes.
So again, I completely agree with you that college is just not for education. It's also for meeting similar minds.
Yeah, as you said, your institution, your college organized few like-minded people. They gave you the platform.
Put it together for like a couple of years.
Yes, and those are your clients or your business partners now. So what the institution did, they organize it, didn't they?
True.
Right. So that's what I was trying to say. So we organize it. We also have seed funding for students who would like to start something.
Nice.
Right.
Incubation.
So yes, incubation, and we also provide them a room and the internet connections and all that stuff. Even put in money if the process is really good, and even our marketing team will actually market that product if it's really good. So we have that kind of platform as well.
Can we talk about anything similar that you have done lately?
Well, there's one application called Tommy Truck,
Okay.
which our graduates are doing it. So it's a food delivery company. They
Nice.
produce food as well,
Okay.
right? And they deliver it. They run our canteen at Softwarica College, and also
Okay.
they deliver food to various offices, banks, and so on and so forth. So we actually kind of invested a little on them. Right, and gave them the platform and gave our networks. So one of the most important thing is network, right?
Yeah.
So they accessed my network and my colleagues' network.
Which
And-
you guys have been building it since
yes,
years.
since
decades.
years, and these are kids. I mean, they don't have that kind of. Even if they did, they have these all low level networks, which these low level networks cannot decide on the business.
True.
So, for example,
Or not bring money.
yeah, or when people say I know people from that bank and that corporate house and that corporate house, the thing is most of the time they know person of a lower or middle rank.
Someone who would not be able to make a
Yes.
decision.
So they don't know people who makes the decision. So at our level, we know people who actually make the decision and connect those people directly to the students like who's done tummy truck at our institution. So that's one example. And we had another couple of examples. So some students tried to open up their own software companies, and we gave them a space, and they're out now and doing their own. I kind of forgot the name, which I can do it later. So there are several companies who's doing that. So that's how we do at our institution.
So, how big of a role should a college play to, let's say, because right now the whole culture is, I think the college is only producing job seekers.
Mm-hmm.
How big of a role is Softwarica is playing to produce job creators?
Well, I have a different take on this, Anup. I really don't believe that you should jump into business once you are out of your school.
Or right away.
Right away. So I really believe that you need to test some water before you actually jump in the ocean. Right. So I really kind of suggest students to take up a job for at least a couple of years, understand how the business world works, how to develop relationship, how to communicate effectively, how to get good people, right? And a lot of the time, what I've realized is that some best friends, they get together, they open up company, they suddenly spend 10 lakhs on office and sofas and carpets and all that, and once the office is done, they don't know what to do. They have no business, right? And then they end up paying the rent, and all the thing deteriorates, and the fallacy of being friends doing business together is that those friends who we met at the bachelor's level or at 10+2 level, I don't know if they are real friends, because you meet friends on the good times only.
True.
right? So you went, you met your friend, you hung out together, and then you had good times. You went to picnic together.
And
you know,
because you didn't have any responsibilities and
yeah,
obligations.
yeah, of course, and all the money were given by your parents, and you had good times and all that. And at good times, everybody can become friends, right? The friends are those who can support you at bad times, right? So and all these friends, so-called friends, right? They the students say that, this is my best friend, that is my best friend, but I say, you don't know. and and these friends get together, and then they open up a company, and they spend quite a bit on that, and the company loses money. And now you say whether you have a true friend or not. And in 90% of the case, their friendship breaks.
Loss
Right.
of money, loss of relationship.
Yes. So that's the reason I suggest students to actually, when they graduate, to work for a certain company, get to know things before dipping your feet onto the whole ocean. Just yeah.
You made me remember a quote by Jack Ma. He was like, under 30, work for someone or someone else who you really inspired to be one someday.
Yeah, yeah.
And then after 30, you go and
Yes,
start your
yes,
own
and
business.
that's actually happened to me as well. I went to the UK back in 2001, and stayed for 8 or 9 years. I did my bachelor's, master's, everything there. Worked for a couple of years as well. And when I came back to Nepal, I thought that I was very smart, right? So I thought that everyone else is dumb.
Which you are.
I mean, at that time, right? And I thought that if I did, I could do anything. So I could do any business and turn it around and make money. I had that confidence, and I, got together a few boys and started a kind of medical wholesale kind of thing,
Okay.
right? Supplying equipments like blood pressure machines and diabetes machines and all that. And it went down bitterly, right? So my confidence all shattered, and then I realized that I didn't know
Business
much.
very well in Nepal.
Yes. So even though I worked in the UK for several years, when coming back to Nepal, I failed not just one, couple of businesses, and lost quite a bit of money. I had earned quite by working several years in the UK. I had few bucks in my pocket,
That's why
and
you
then
came
I
back
spent
to-
it all.
Oh.
I spent it all. I tried to open a few businesses which all went down under. So I was back to zero. And then I went for a job.
Okay.
That was the reason I went for a job. The reason, I wasn't, I was on a holiday in Nepal. I was supposed to go back. And then, somehow I stayed back, got married, and just thought of, doing something in Nepal. And the idea of getting a job was not for me back then, when I immediately came back, right?
You
So
wanted
I opened up.
All you wanted to do was business.
Yeah, I wanted to business, and I was so confident that whatever business I do, it would be a great success.
I'm gonna turn it up.
Yes, and to the contrary, it failed bitterly, right? So
Is it because you had such a internationally rewarded education system degree, but then back in the country things are quite opposite. So does it make sense to tell that if you really want to stay in Nepal yet have an international degree? I mean, like this case, let's have a two case. You go to US or Australia or UK, you study there, and your intention is to come back to Nepal to do a business by bringing some amount of money. Case two, you invest here in Nepal in your education on some international degree, you start business here by itself. So I think now after listening to you, the case two is much better, because at least while doing your education in Nepal, you would not be unknown with the culture. You will not be unknown with the current scenario,
Yeah,
the current
yeah.
status of how the business will be
Yes,
done. But then
yes.
back in UK or back, and if you are actually planning to come back, because all you will be having is definitely an international degree and international exposure, but then the working system, environment, and the business structure would be completely 180 degree opposite to what it is in Nepal, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I had several years of experience working for big companies in the UK, and that did not help when I started my own company in Nepal. So, those students who actually study here and get international degrees, I think they have a better chance to succeed in business inside Nepal. I'm not sure about outside Nepal, but inside Nepal, since, as you said, they already know the culture, they already know the structure, they already know how things work, they already know how to, get the bureaucrats turnaround, and all those kind of things.
And
right?
yet with an international degree on their hand.
Yes, and of course with the international degree they have this at least the exposure, academic exposure, not the real exposure, but the academic exposure. At least they know things, they know stuffs, and with the combination of both, it's quite likely that they will succeed in Nepal than in other countries. And even the graduates, how many graduates do you know abroad who actually does business after graduation?
None.
It's very rare. It's very, very rare.
None in my circle.
So most of the people, they go into jobs. Why can't they open? Why can't they become an entrepreneur? Because it's highly competitive outside, right? And it takes huge amount of money just to start just a small thing outside.
And do you know the most golden strategy, the goal of everyone who is gone outside? Work for a couple of years, fucking hard. And target for a PR.
Yeah.
And I find that very depressing, like how come a PR could be the ultimate goal of your life? I mean, like every time you talk with them, oh yeah, PR apply गरिरहेको छु, $15,000 लगाइरहेको छ, ल्याङ भइरहेको छ, अब 8 महिनामा थाहा हुन्छ. Oh my god. I mean, like it's really good to have goals, but then my big goals is to build a $1 billion company in Nepal. Let's take this company that is in Nepal outside and make this place a headquarters. But then when I talk to them, I say these ideas of mine which might sound very ridiculous, but then their ideas sound very, very achievable for me. I mean, like a PR.
Well, getting PR might be the means to an end, and people think that is as an end in itself.
No, I appreciate people who have I will have a PR, and this is what I'm gonna do in next 3 years. But then that's not the case.
No.
Just
I mean, what good PR is if you still continue to wash dishes, and if you still continue to wipe windows, and if you still continue to work in a restaurant. What good is PR? Right? So I don't understand why people are...
It's just a liberty to come back to Nepal whenever they want.
I mean, if you build your, even in Nepal, I don't have any restriction traveling anywhere in the world.
True. You just came back from...
Yeah, because I'm settled there. I'm a Nepali person. I have a Nepali passport, but I do not have any restrictions, right? If you do something here in Nepal, people will recognize, embassies will recognize. So if you've done something, right? And then they will allow you to travel anywhere in the world. So I do not buy the this argument that, if you stay back and you have PR, you can travel across the world and all that. And the thing that is funny is that, how many times will you travel with that PR or with that passport if you're an American citizen, Nepali American citizen or Australian citizen? Not much. Well, all you do, I've seen, all you do is you come to Nepal, right? Maybe once a year, I don't know, once in 2 years. And then you might travel a little bit, once in 2 years to some countries.
And if it's...
And and those people are saying as if they are kind of businessmen traveling, one day to US, the next day to Canada, next day to Australia.
On a very, premium...
Yeah, they're not doing that, are they?
They're not.
So what good is the passport just for that one time in 2 years that you travel somewhere?
Right? It's easily achievable if you can start something in Nepal.
Yes. And there's no restriction. There's no restriction for me. I believe there's no restriction for you as well, because you are doing pretty good, opening a few companies and giving employment to a lot of people here.
True.
So, that's the way. So I don't understand why people do that. And deep down, these people, all they want to come back. Deep down. Because living in a foreign country, no matter how many years you've lived there, you'll still not become a full standard citizen.
You're always a second.
Yeah, you'll always be an outsider.
Outsider.
I'll like to call it that one, outsider. True. Because if you say first, second, that will not be politically correct. True. But people will treat you as an outsider, right? No matter how many years you stay in that particular country, no matter you have passport, you have house or cars or whatever. So and deep down, these people would all want to come back. And if our country's economy and everything else becomes a little comparable to these countries, everyone will come back. And that's what's happening in India and China.
So how is Softwarica and Sunway actually encouraging their graduates to stay in Nepal, whether to start their own business or to get along with some amazing companies and bring a big value to them? How are you encouraging them to stay?
Well, the thing about, staying back is that back in my days, you go back 20 years ago, right? So back in my days, if I had to pay the university fee in the UK, even if I sold my house, it would still not be sufficient to pay the university fee. 20 years ago.
20
right?
years ago.
The fee was around £7,000 a year. So which would work out in 3 years, £21,000. And my house valuation was 22 lakhs. So it was just about similar. So if you, and the house, it's just not my house. I had a brother and sister and mom and dad and everything else living in the same house. So now 20 years down the line, the situation has changed drastically, right? So if you sell few annas of land, you can actually go and study in the US, and you can actually afford it.
Few annas on the right place will get a few crores.
Yeah. And then you can have a good time, and you don't really have to work and all that. So the situation has changed drastically in 20 years. So the reason I'm saying this is that, even pay-wise, so now even in the UK or Australia, you might earn around $2,000, $3,000 a month, right? Which works out around 2 lakhs rupees a month in the Nepali rupees context, right? And then if you earn $2,000-3,000, you save around 20, 30, 50,000 rupees a month, because the rent's expensive, everything else is expensive. You end up almost spending all of the money. But in Nepal, if you earn 40, 50,000 rupees, you can get the same standard of life as if you earn $3,000-4,000 in the US or in Australia.
True.
So and now students have come to realize that, because a lot of the people have gone abroad and they know how things are, and we tell them as well. Exactly. Right? So if and now IT graduates, they don't really have to start for 8,000 rupees. Because a lot of recruitment companies, they contact me at Softwarica, and then I have to tell them that I don't have anybody, because they are already recruited.
Yes.
So companies have already come, and they've taken our students, and they start on 40 grand.
You guys have done a lot of placement thing with Meru job.
Yeah, we did that for Sunway. And even for Sunway, I don't have many students for companies to recruit. So in Softwarica, it's almost zero. There are no students. Right, because they already found a job and
started a company.
Yes, already started a company. Most of them have found a job, and some of them have started a company, and there is nobody free to join these companies. So and these students are not starting on 10,000, not 20,000, and most of them are starting on 40, 45,000, right? And imagine that you are 21 years old, right? So and you are making 50,000 rupees a month.
That's crazy.
In Nepal. So imagine the kind of life you lead.
True, because I think a lot of people go outside for a lifestyle.
Yeah, and of course, and freedom.
And second half people go for bigger projects.
Yes.
So if it's about IT, with what you made, you can already achieve some good lifestyle. And in terms of work, because it's an IT, you can always get into BPO industries and start working for international projects. Isn't it?
And with the kind of money that they are earning now, 21 years, 22 years old in Kathmandu, and believe me, Kathmandu is a very vibrant place.
And it's very
as
expensive.
long as you have money.
True.
Right? If you don't have money, this is a very depressing place. Right?
The whole world is depressing if you don't have money.
Right? So if you have money, for a 21-year-old having 50,000 a month and have a nice girlfriend or boyfriend, and they go to restaurants and they go to different resorts and all that, you can have a fantastic time in Kathmandu, in Nepal, with that money. And most of these students or these graduates, they do not have to give money to their parents, because the parents are happy that the kid is earning 50,000, is having a good time. They are proud. They don't want any of the money.
So coming from a high elite institution like yours, does it guarantees high paying jobs once they graduate?
I don't have to guarantee anything, right? Because history tells you everything. I do not have a single student looking for a job now, or a graduate looking for a job now. So they've all found the job. And I told you before that these recruitment companies, they hound me for students, right? But I've not been able to give them a single student. Why? Because I don't have any. And last time we had this Japanese company coming into our college, and they want 100 of our graduates.
Then why are we listening? There is a big time employment gap in Nepal. There are a lot of people unemployed. Why do we get to listen to this news a lot often?
Well, I told you a little while ago that
300,000. I can relate to
if you study something, if you cheat, if you buy a thesis, and you have some political connections during the exam, somebody else sat for your exams, and that's if you are that kind of graduate, obviously you will not find a job.
And if
right?
you even find one, you will not last long.
Yes, and even if you are powerful and you have all these sort of connections, and if somebody put you in a certain position in a certain private company, I'm not talking about public, private company, then the guy or the girl will be fired in 3 months.
True.
Because if you don't have skill, nobody will tolerate you. Where the organizer is bleeding money.
True.
Right? So in the public organization, it's a government money, nobody cares.
True.
Right? But even in public, if you want to become a permanent employee, you have to go through Lok Seva and you have to study.
And that's very challenging.
It's very challenging. And you don't get a chance, compared to the students who's actually graduated from Joomla, who's worked really hard. And those are the kind of students who will actually, come to Lok Seva and pass the exams. Not the people in Kathmandu doing TCs and hanging around doing political things and all that. They do not stand a chance, right? At least that part is fair in Nepal.
True.